Let me tell you about the day humanity accidentally convinced the entire galactic community that we were keeping weapons of mass destruction as pets. Not our proudest moment, but definitely one of our funniest. Captain Jack Murphy stood in the control room of his salvage ship, the Bargain Hunter, staring at what had to be the most promising derelict he'd found in years. A massive abandoned research station, just floating there in the void, practically gift-wrapped. The station's sleek architecture screamed Zephyrian design, which meant cutting-edge tech and materials worth a fortune to the right buyers. "Dana, what's our preliminary scan show?" Murphy asked his xenobiologist, knowing full well she'd already run every possible test twice. Lieutenant Dana Maxwell practically bounced as she rattled off readings. Atmospheric integrity at 89%, artificial gravity functional, no signs of radiation or biological contamination. But here's the weird part, Captain, there's a life sign. Just one. And it's moving really erratically. Probably a malfunctioning cleaning bot. Engineer Raj Patel chimed in from his station, not bothering to look up from his diagnostic panel. Those things always go haywire when left alone too long. Last derelict we found had one that spent 3 years trying to mop the ceiling. Murphy rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Well, if it's just one bot, we shouldn't have any trouble. Dana, you're with me on the boarding team. Raj, monitor from here and make sure nothing tries to vent us into space. Again. That was one time Raj protested. And I maintain that airlock had it out for me personally. 20 minutes later, Murphy and Dana were making their way through the abandoned station's pristine corridors. The emergency lighting cast everything in a pale blue glow that made the whole place feel like an aquarium. A very expensive, very empty aquarium. "This is incredible," Dana whispered, though there was clearly no need for stealth. "Look at these containment units. The Zephyrians were definitely keeping something in here. Multiple somethings." Murphy nodded, noting the rows of high-tech chambers lining the walls. Most were dark, but one at the far end still hummed with power. As they approached, they could hear a soft sound coming from inside, something between a rumble and a vibration. "That's our life sign," Dana confirmed, checking her scanner. "Whatever's in there is about the size of a small drone. No weapons signatures, minimal energy output." Murphy squared his shoulders. "All right, let's see what the Zephyrians thought was worth all this security." He pressed the release panel. The chamber door slid open with a soft hiss. 2 glowing eyes stared back at them from the darkness. "Is that?" Dana started. "No way," Murphy breathed. A sleek black cat sauntered out of the containment unit, stretched luxuriously, and looked up at them with an expression that somehow managed to combine "I've been expecting you" with "you're late with my dinner," in a way only cats can achieve. Dana's scanner nearly slipped from her suddenly trembling hands. "Captain, according to these readings, this facility was a high-security containment center for studying the galaxy's most dangerous predators." The cat began to purr, rubbing against Murphy's legs. "Well," Murphy said, watching as the supposedly terrifying creature flopped onto its back, exposing its belly in what he knew from experience was almost certainly a trap. Either the Zephyrians are the biggest cowards in the galaxy, or we're missing something important here. Raj's voice crackled over their comms. "Everything okay in there? Your vital signs just spiked." "We're fine," Murphy replied, trying not to laugh. "But you're not going to believe what we found. Remember that time you said you missed having a ship's cat?" The cat's purring grew louder, as if it knew exactly what kind of chaos it was about to introduce into their lives. In retrospect, it probably did. "Let me get this straight," Raj said, staring at the cat now perched regally on his engineering console. "The Zephyrians, a species that conquered half the Andromeda galaxy, were scared of this." The cat, which Dana had insisted on naming Professor Schrödinger, despite Murphy's protests about tempting fate, yawned and showed off an impressive set of teeth. "According to their research logs," Dana explained, practically vibrating with excitement as she pored over the translated data, "they found it on an expedition to Earth about 50 years ago. They classified it as an apex predator based on its hunting capabilities, stealth technology, and psychological warfare tactics." Murphy raised an eyebrow. "Psychological warfare? It says here that the specimen demonstrated an ability to manipulate its captors through a combination of audio signals and mind control." Dana squinted at her tablet. "They called it the PER protocol." As if on cue, Professor Schrödinger began to purr, causing Raj to unconsciously reach out and scratch behind its ears. The engineer caught himself and quickly withdrew his hand, looking betrayed. See? It's happening to me right now. The beast is attempting to establish dominance through some sort of hypnotic frequency. Murphy couldn't help but laugh. Raj, it's a cat. We've had them on Earth for thousands of years. They're pets. Pets. Dana looked horrified. Captain, according to these notes, this creature can kill something 3 times its size, requires 0 visibility to hunt effectively, and possesses a complete disregard for the laws of physics. The Zephyrians documented it knocking plasma containment units off high surfaces just to watch them shatter. That's just what cats do, Murphy shrugged. They knock stuff over. It's their thing. But why? Raj demanded, watching nervously as Professor Schrödinger began batting at a crucial reactor control toggle. No one knows. That's also their thing. Dana was still scrolling through the research data. It says they abandoned the station after the specimen escaped containment for the 15th time and somehow managed to redirect all the facility's resources to its personal quarters. They found it sleeping in the station commander's chair, surrounded by shredded diplomatic documents. Sounds about right, Murphy nodded. My aunt had a cat that once filed her taxes by walking across her computer keyboard. Somehow got her a bigger refund than she'd ever received. Professor Schrödinger chose that moment to leap gracefully from the console to Murphy's shoulders, wrapping around his neck like a furry scarf and resuming its purring. See, Raj pointed accusingly. It's attempting to strangle the captain. It's cuddling, Raj. That's what it wants you to think. I've read the Zephyrian tactical assessments. They documented 9 different killing techniques, including something they called the death noodle maneuver, which sounds suspiciously like what's happening right now. Dana was practically bouncing. Don't you realize what this means? We've discovered why no alien species ever successfully invaded Earth. They must have encountered cats during their reconnaissance and decided the planet was too dangerous. Murphy scratched under Professor Schrödinger's chin, earning a pleased MRRP. I'm pretty sure that's not. Think about it, Dana interrupted. Every Earth cat trait is terrifying from an alien perspective. They can survive falls from incredible heights. They hunt for fun, not food. They share an encrypted communication network we still don't understand. That's just meowing, Murphy tried to interject. And they've convinced an entire apex predator species, humans, to willingly serve them, Dana finished triumphantly. Professor Schrödinger stretched and hopped down from Murphy's shoulders, patting over to Raj's lunch container and helping itself to his sandwich. Hey, Raj protested. That's my... The cat looked him directly in the eyes and slowly, deliberately, pushed his coffee mug closer to the edge of the console. Your sandwich. It's your sandwich. Please enjoy my sandwich. Murphy pinched the bridge of his nose. We are not being held hostage by a cat. A warning light began flashing on the console. Somehow, in the 3 seconds none of them had been watching, Professor Schrödinger had managed to transmit their location to every ship within 50 light years. Correction, Murphy sighed as the first curious responses began coming in. We're not being held hostage by just a cat. We're about to have company. Professor Schrödinger, having finished the sandwich, began grooming itself with an air of immense satisfaction. The cat, it seemed, had plans of its own. As it turns out, attempting to explain the concept of a house cat to a shipload of panicked alien scientists is even harder than it sounds, especially when said cat is systematically testing every gravity setting on the ship while you're trying to have a serious diplomatic conversation. No, for the last time, Murphy said, pinching the bridge of his nose, we did not genetically engineer them as weapons. They came like this. The holographic image of Chief Researcher Vex Terra, a mantis like Arxian, clicked its mandibles skeptically. You expect us to believe you willingly share your dwellings with such creatures? Our analysis indicates they are capable of eliminating all life on a small moon. At that exact moment, Professor Schrödinger decided to demonstrate its hunting prowess by pouncing on the hologram projector's light beam, causing Vex Terra's image to splinter into a dozen tiny mantis scientists across the conference room. Extraordinary, one of the fragmented Vex Terras exclaimed. It can divide its enemies into smaller, more manageable targets. It's just chasing the light, Murphy tried to explain, but was interrupted by the arrival of 3 more alien vessels, each demanding to know more about the death beast they detected on their scanners. Dana wasn't helping. Actually, on Earth, we maintain entire colonies of these predators. Some humans care for dozens at once. The collective gasp from their alien audience was almost comical. Almost. Dozens. A new voice joined the conversation as a Malorian trade ship dropped out of hyperspace. The creatures hunt in packs. Sometimes Raj muttered, still bitter about his sandwich. My sister has 3. They coordinate their attacks on Christmas trees. Professor Schrödinger, apparently bored with the light show, had moved on to methodically removing all of Raj's carefully organized tool calibration stickers and replacing them with tiny paw prints. How do you control them? The Arxian scientist demanded. Murphy laughed. Control them? We don't. They do what they want. This turned out to be exactly the wrong thing to say. Emergency alerts began blaring across every channel as the alien ships started backing away. Which, naturally, was when the Drachnid battlecruiser showed up. The Drachnids were exactly the kind of aliens you'd expect to pilot something called a battlecruiser 9 feet tall, covered in scales and perpetually angry about everything. Their captain's massive horned head filled the view screen, making the bargain hunter's bridge feel even smaller than usual. Surrender the bioweapon, the Drachnid captain bellowed, because apparently they hadn't evolved indoor voices yet. It's not a weapon, Murphy started to explain, but Professor Schrödinger chose that moment to leap onto the main console, directly in view of the camera. The mighty Drachnid warrior, terror of 3 galaxies, actually flinched. Professor Schrödinger began grooming itself, completely ignoring the alien warlord. This somehow made it worse. It shows no fear, the Drachnid whispered, which still rattled the windows. Truly, the humans are more dangerous than we imagined, to keep such beings as companions. Look, Murphy tried again. If you'd just let me explain. That's when the Drachnid ship fired a warning shot. A big one. Several things happened very quickly. Professor Schrödinger, startled by the weapon's fire, jumped straight up. This activated the emergency defense protocols Raj had been recalibrating. The bargain hunter's automated systems, responding to the cat's sudden movement, launched every countermeasure they had. The resulting light show spooked the Arxian science vessel into releasing its experimental quantum field generator. Professor Schrödinger, in defiance of several laws of physics, managed to somehow be in 3 places at once while avoiding the chaos. When the dust settled, the Drachnid battlecruiser found itself inexplicably tied up in its own tractor beams. The Arxian quantum field had turned their ship temporarily into a very confused shoal of space fish, and Professor Schrödinger was calmly washing its paw, as if nothing had happened. Did Dana checked her readings 3 times? Did our cat just win a space battle? Not on purpose, Murphy assured the now thoroughly terrified alien fleet. It was just doing cat things. What manner of beings are you, the Drachnid captain demanded, still trying to untangle his ship, that you consider such chaos normal? Professor Schrödinger finished its grooming, stretched, and walked across the console, delicately stepping on exactly the right combination of buttons to transmit the entire incident to every communications relay in range. Murphy dropped his head into his hands. We're going to need a bigger litter box. News travels fast in space. News about a species that keeps miniature chaos demons as pets travels even faster. Within 24 hours, the bargain hunter had become the center of what Murphy could only describe as a full-blown galactic incident. Current bid from the Centaurian Defense Ministry is 18 fusion cores, and a small moon, Dana reported, scrolling through their communications feed. Though the Arcturus cartel's offering of an entire solar system is technically worth more. We're not selling the cat, Murphy said for what felt like the 1000th time. Professor Schrödinger, sprawled across his captain's chair, opened one eye, as if to say obviously not. You work for me. Did you see the latest threat assessment? Raj asked, showing them his tablet. The Galactic Security Council has officially classified Earth cats as Category 1 reality destabilizers. We're on the same threat level as quantum black holes and my mother's cooking. That's ridiculous, Murphy protested. They're just. Okay, yes, sometimes they do break local causality, but only when they're getting the zoomies. What a chorus of alien voices demanded through the still open channels. You know when they just Murphy waggled his hands vaguely. Start running around like crazy for no reason. 3 more emergency alerts lit up the console. They can enter berserker mode while the Arxian scientists sounded close to fainting. And you let them. Sometimes we wave string around to encourage it, Dana added helpfully. The alerts doubled. Meanwhile, Professor Schrödinger had discovered the ship's internal maintenance drone and was stalking it through the ventilation system, causing random sections of the ship to go dark as it pounced on power conduits. The Malorians are reporting unauthorized feline activity in the Carina sector, Raj announced. Apparently someone's trying to breed them. Murphy groaned. How? We've only had 1 cat out here for less than 2 days. Sir Dana's voice had that special tone that meant Murphy's day was about to get much worse. You know how cats on Earth sometimes bring their owners presents? Yes. Well, Professor Schrödinger just deposited a dead space mouse on the bridge of the Drachnid battle cruiser. Their captain is emotional about it. The Drachnid's voice boomed through their speakers. The Death Beast has chosen us as worthy. We shall honor this sacred tribute with battle songs for 1,000 years. Professor Schrödinger reappeared on their bridge, looking extremely pleased with itself. That's not Murphy started, but the cat had already moved on to batting around a small crystalline sphere that definitely wasn't there a moment ago. Is that? Raj squinted at it. Is that the Arxian's quantum stabilizer? A frantic message from the science vessel confirmed that yes it was, and would they please return it before the local space-time fabric developed any more holes. How did it even get that? Murphy demanded. Their shields were up. Cats don't believe in physics, Dana said sagely. Physics is just a suggestion, like gravity or not eating plastic, or the concept of personal property. The crystalline sphere rolled under a console, followed by an eager paw. Several reality-bending moments later, they had a new water feature in the cargo bay that somehow connected directly to one of Jupiter's moons. The black market's going crazy, Raj reported, checking the underground channels. Someone's offering their firstborn for a genuine Earth cat. Though considering it's approximate, that's about 6,000 children. We have to stop this, Murphy decided. Before someone does something stupid like. Update, the Drachnid captain thundered. We have successfully cloned the sacred tribute mouse and are beginning mass production to appease our new feline overlords. Like that, Murphy sighed. Exactly like that. Professor Schrödinger's ears perked up at the word mouse, and suddenly every navigation system on the ship rerouted toward the Drachnid vessel. No, Murphy lunged for the controls. Bad kitty. No declaring yourself God Emperor of the Drachnid Empire. The cat gave him a look that clearly said, just try and stop me, and pressed its paw deliberately on the emergency hyperdrive activation panel. As they shot through space toward what would undoubtedly become either a major diplomatic incident or the founding of a new religion, possibly both, Murphy had a sudden realization. Dana, he said slowly, exactly how many cats are there on Earth? Dana checked her database. Current estimates put it at about 600 million domestic cats, plus ferals. The collective scream of terror from every alien ship in range was probably audible in at least 3 dimensions. Professor Schrödinger purred smugly, already planning its new empire. The Galactic Council's emergency session was going about as well as any meeting that begins with the phrase "the humans have weaponized cuteness" could be expected to go. Murphy stood before the assembled representatives of 27 spacefaring civilizations, trying very hard to look like someone who definitely had control over the situation and absolutely wasn't worried about what Professor Schrödinger was doing unsupervised on his ship. Distinguished delegates, he began, I assure you that cats are not a threat to galactic security. A holoscreen behind him helpfully displayed live footage of Professor Schrödinger systematically teaching the Drachnid battlecruiser's mouse clones how to disable security systems. That's just enrichment activities, Murphy said weakly. Enrichment? The Malorian ambassador's translucent tentacles writhed in agitation. It's creating an army. No, cats just like to play with. Wait, what's happening on the Arxian ship? Another holoscreen showed a very familiar black shape somehow phasing through walls in the science vessel, trailing a growing crowd of absolutely terrified researchers. How is it in 2 places at once? Someone demanded. That's just what cats. Murphy stopped himself. Actually, no, that's a fair question. I have no idea how they do that. Dana, who was supposed to be helping him explain things, was instead enthusiastically sharing cat videos from Earth with a group of fascinated and horrified alien scientists. "Look at this one," she exclaimed. "This is what happens when you put a cucumber behind them." "They have a natural weakness," the Drachnid captain boomed hopefully. "No, they just sort of jump and then get really mad," Dana explained. "It's hilarious. You antagonize them for entertainment." The entire Drachnid delegation took a step back. Truly, humans fear nothing. The council chamber erupted into chaos as everyone started talking at once. Murphy caught fragments of conversations that ranged from orbital containment field around Earth to surrender now and hope they show mercy. "Please," Murphy tried again. "If you'd just let me explain about laser pointers." This turned out to be another tactical error. "They have mastered directed energy weapons." The Drachnid captain's voice actually cracked. "No. Well, yes, they chase them, but the creatures hunt particle beams." The Arxian scientist looked ready to faint. "For sport." Meanwhile, Raj was frantically trying to get Murphy's attention through their comm link. "Captain? We might have a small situation up here." Murphy closed his eyes. "Define small." "Remember how Professor Schrödinger was teaching those cloned mice to disable security systems?" "Yes." "Well, they've unionized." Murphy blinked. "The mice have what now?" "Formed a labor union. They're demanding better working conditions and more cheese. Also, I think the cat is their shop steward. It's complicated." The Galactic Council was now voting on whether to quarantine the entire Sol system. "Look," Murphy addressed the assembly, "I know this all seems alarming, but cats have been on Earth for thousands of years and we're fine." "Are you?" Though the Malorian ambassador gestured to another holoscreen showing historical Earth data. "Your species builds its entire civilization around appeasing these creatures. You construct elaborate towers in your homes for them to survey their domain. You have created an entire global information network that appears to consist primarily of cat imagery. The internet has other things," Murphy protested. "Like, more cat videos," Dana supplied helpfully. "Oh, and memes about cats. Want to see one about a cheeseburger?" 3 more species voted for quarantine. That's when Professor Schrödinger decided to make a grand entrance. Both of it, simultaneously. From different ships. The council chamber fell silent as the cat-s sauntered in, followed by an honor guard of organized mice, and what appeared to be a small contingent of converted security drones now equipped with automatic petting attachments. "How is it doing that?" the Drachnid captain whispered, relatively speaking. "Quantum entanglement," suggested an Arxian scientist. "Dark matter manipulation," offered another. "Cats," Murphy said simply, having long ago given up on understanding these things. Professor Schrödinger merged back into a single cat, sat down in the center of the chamber, and began to purr. The sound somehow managed to come from everywhere at once, including several places that sound definitely shouldn't be able to exist. One by one, the delegates found themselves inexplicably moving closer, hands or tentacles, or appendages reaching out to pet the seemingly harmless creature. "See," Murphy said. "They're not dangerous, they're—" He stopped as he noticed Professor Schrödinger's expression. It was a look he recognized from Earth cats right before they unleashed maximum chaos. "Oh no." The cat winked at him, an expression he was pretty sure cats weren't actually capable of, and then everything went sideways. Literally, in some cases, as local gravity decided to take a coffee break. As reality itself began to hiccup around them, Murphy had just enough time to think that maybe, just maybe, the aliens had a point about cats after all. As it turned out, there was exactly one thing in the known universe more powerful than a cat who thinks they're in charge of everything: a cat who discovers catnip. Murphy would love to say he planned it. That humanity's sudden elevation to most terrifying species in the galaxy was the result of careful diplomacy and strategic thinking. But no, Professor Schrödinger just found the emergency catnip stash Dana had been hiding in her quarters just in case. The result was memorable. First, the cat achieved what leading quantum physicists had been attempting for centuries: existing in all possible states simultaneously, while remaining completely conscious in each one. The Arxians recorded at least 17 identical cats, each performing a different gravity-defying feat of acrobatics across multiple ships. Then came the zoomies. I didn't know it was possible to break the sound barrier in a hallway that's only 10 feet long, Raj commented, watching the sensors try to track their now supercharged feline passenger. Glorious, the Drachnid captain's voice boomed through the comms. The death beast has ascended to its final form. Professor Schrödinger, high on catnip and drunk on power, proceeded to demonstrate exactly why cats and quantum physics shouldn't mix. Reality hiccuped. Space-time developed a hairball. Somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, every single ball of yarn simultaneously rolled under a couch. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Professor Schrödinger collapsed into a purring puddle of fur in the middle of the council chamber, radiating smugness and contentment in equal measure. The assembled delegates stared in awe. That the Malorian ambassador whispered, "That was just one cat. And you say there are hundreds of millions on Earth. But they're not all like Murphy started." Then remembered his aunt's 3 cats and what they did to the Christmas tree last year. Actually, yes, they are. A moment of profound silence filled the chamber. Then, something extraordinary happened. The Drachnid captain stepped forward, and with all the ceremony a 9-foot-tall reptilian warrior could muster, knelt before Professor Schrödinger. "We have witnessed the power of the Earth beast," they announced, "and we choose alliance over extinction." One by one, the other delegates followed suit. Murphy watched in disbelief as the most powerful beings in the galaxy pledged fealty to a cat that was now making little snoring noises. Within a week, the galaxy had completely reorganized itself around this new reality. Cats became the ultimate status symbol among alien species. The more chaos your cat caused, the more prestigious your position. The Drachnids converted their entire battle fleet into what they called enrichment platforms, essentially giant space catteries with weapon systems that existed solely to be knocked over by bored felines. Earth, once considered a backwater planet, suddenly found itself at the center of galactic politics. After all, they were the only ones who knew the secret art of cat diplomacy. The fact that this secret art mostly consisted of accepting that chaos was inevitable, and keeping the treat drawer well stocked was beside the point. Professor Schrödinger, naturally, took full advantage of the situation. The cat established what came to be known as the Feline Federation, a loose coalition of cats and their various support staff formerly known as species capable of operating can openers. As for the bargain hunters crew, they became legendary as the ones who introduced the galaxy to Earth's most enigmatic export. Though Murphy still maintains that none of it was intentional. Cats, he would explain to anyone who asked, don't follow plans. They don't obey laws, physical or otherwise. They just do what they want, and the universe learns to deal with it. And somewhere on the ship, Professor Schrödinger purred in agreement, knocked something expensive off a high shelf, and continued their important work of training the mice in advanced quantum mechanics. After all, cats had always known they were in charge. Now everyone else knew it too.